Hey, rock stars, I have a quick favor to ask you. Our mission is to educate and inspire the next generation of business leaders. If you're getting value from the Business Development Podcast, please take a second and hit follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Not only will you never miss an episode, but you will help us reach more business leaders around the world. Thank you so much for being part of the journey, and I hope you enjoy the show.
To be, completely transparent, my dad died this morning, right? And I was just thinking about him as he's, kind of going out, what's going through his head? Like, what kind of things are important? And, did I make the world a better place? Did I make things, did I have great relationships? Did I make the world a better place, right? And I think that's really what we're trying to do is it's not about me. It's not just about me enjoying my life and hedonistic kind of get what I want. It's like, I want to make a difference for other people because it sucks sometimes and I need some friends and I need some people around me that help me, and I'm going to do everything I can to help them too.
The great Mark Cuban once said, business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal. And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 348 of the Business Development Podcast. And today, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome back a true cornerstone of this show, Colin Christensen, for his fourth appearance on the Business Development Podcast. Colin first joined us for the unforgettable episodes 16 and 18, Exceptional Success, Crushing Pain, and Back Again, where he shared one of the most honest and inspiring entrepreneurial recovery stories we have ever heard. In episode 66, Go and Mentor Somebody, he delivered a powerful perspective on mentorship, leadership, and building a life of impact through service. With over 30 years of experience building, funding, and mentoring businesses, a global track record of empowering founders across 10 countries, Colin remains a guiding voice in the world of early-stage entrepreneurship. Now, Colin returns in a bold new chapter as the CEO of Tidal Care Inc., where he's leading a team focused on the future of mental wellness through the development of high-quality, research-driven, mushroom-based therapeutics. Tidal is laying the foundation for regulated psilocybin-assisted treatments by producing consistent, validated products ready to meet the rigorous demands of medical and scientific communities. Colin is not just talking impact, he is building it. Colin, welcome back to the show.
Wow, Kelly. Anytime people read or have introductions, if you've done this any amount of times, typically, hey, give me a bio so I can read the bio. And as you were saying that one, that was not from me. Right?
No.
that was one that you had put together. So A, super well done. B, wow, I sound way cooler than I am. And it's just really great. Thank you for doing a little bit of research on that.
Oh my gosh, man. Thank you for everything that you've done for me and this show, honestly. I look back all the way episodes 16 and 18. My gosh, they were a while ago and I was very new to interviewing at that point and you put up with me. So thanks for encouraging me and sticking with us and through the ups and downs and rounds. You've been there the whole time, man. And I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
It's fun watching it go and see how it's kind of come together. And you've interviewed obviously a lot of friends that we both know and know in the city and know even across Canada. So yeah. It's and beyond. It's very cool to see how you've done it and put it together and even what you've built. I mean, with all the Catalyst stuff and everything is coming together. It's a lot of fun watching it.
Well, it's all an evolution, right? Like I could have never seen any of the steps along the way. And I'm sure we can talk about that today as just entrepreneurship is that you just don't have all of the pieces when you start this puzzle, right? It's like a lot of the pieces just seem to appear as you go down this track path and you're like, oh, I can do that. Or, hey, we should consider this. But it's so funny because if I look back to, the start of my entrepreneurship journey, and I imagine this is the same for a lot of the founders you work with, the company or the place we're at today is a lot different than the place I could have even imagined when we started.
Yeah. Well, then you can only see around corners to a degree, right? You make some assumptions, you navigate the best you can. You're looking ahead into a million different timelines and just trying to navigate the best one that makes the most sense. And then, you roll the corner and all of a sudden it's like, oh, a whole new problem. And, we can certainly talk about some of those today too. But it is what it is. That's the fun and that's the challenge. And, and it's just, I don't think it's much different in a job. The only difference is, as long as you kind of muddle through and do okay, they keep paying you, right?
Yeah.
Maybe with entrepreneurship, the only difference is you have to kind of muddle ahead and make sure that you're paying yourself.
Yes.
So,
yes. Well, that's it. It's so funny. We did a show not that long ago talking about how, we live in a time when people can really become influencers in a way unlike any other time in history. However, I think a lot of them are waking up to realize that being an influencer doesn't mean you're selling something. And that can be like a pretty huge wake up call. We literally did a show called, I believe it was Famous But Broke. Was the name of the show we did,
nice.
right?
That's a good
where
show.
It was talking about where, you can ultimately have all of the knownness in the world, but unless you have a product to sell, you are still going to end up broke.
Yeah. Well, and that just scares me too, if you want to go deeper on that, because man, if I'm the thing to sell, holy crap, I got a shelf life. And I think my expiry date isn't very long, right?
Oh my goodness. You're too hard on yourself, Colin.
Well, but you know what I mean, right? I mean, if I'm selling my ability to be an influencer, I mean, let's look at that for a second. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad role. I mean, do what you can and move forward and be beneficial and learn along the way. It's still a navigation. But if this is what I'm selling, it has some problems, not just because of what I might look like or who I am, but I have a change of opinions. I have a change of health. I have a change of stuff, and it's very stuck on me, right? I mean, my ability to sell is stuck on me too, but if I have a product, I can always shift products. I can change to another product, but I can't change me. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting though on that standpoint as well. At this point, you've mentored over 2,000 different founders. Like that track record carries you to where you are today with all the knowledge that you've acquired along that journey, right? So,
Yeah.
On the other side of it, have you not already done it? Have you not already done all the things that make you a perfect influencer?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I gotta say, every time I mentor somebody, I'm learning something new. And so I would never say that I know what's best or what's right. It's kind of like the idea of wisdom, right? The idea, the funny thing is, a tomato's a fruit, but you wouldn't put it in a fruit salad, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's a simple example of wisdom. But I can share what I've learned, but still people will make a choice that may be different than mine, and that still works out, right? So even in all my experience with what I think might be good or bad, I always say luck and timing will still make or break you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it might be the right choice, but it might be the wrong time. It might be the right way to go, but the wrong execution. There's so many variables. So all I can do is try to color a little bit more into the picture and then hope that we can make the right decisions. But that valuable relationship between a mentor and an entrepreneur is still one of the most important. There's no way I can have perspective outside of my own field of vision.
Sure.
And so, I look at a Rubik's Cube, I see red, but you see orange, right? So, And so we have to make sure that we're looking at things from different angles in order to see what we see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we also live in a time as well where there's a lot of people like you with a lifetime of incredible experience where you've worked with, like I said, thousands and thousands of individuals. You've acquired tons and tons of information. On a certain level, I'm trying to convince more people like you to take that step and say, hey, look, I know all this stuff. I have a very specific perspective, but that perspective is insanely insane. It's worth millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Your perspective is probably worth $100 million to the right company tomorrow.
I-
Definitely.
That would be great. I should get paid for that.
Right? But that's my point, right? My point is that we need people like you to
Always.
stand up.
Always.
We need people like you to stand up and say, you know what? I am going to share my incredibly valuable perspective. No, it might not be right for you. It might not be right for you, but you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I would never say I'm the only mentor, and nobody should take me as the only mentor. Like it's, well, I'm a Christian guy, so going back to even Proverbs, many advisors make victory sure. And that's such a great statement because I think we get different perspectives. My wife is a genius bookkeeper, and she helps me with so much stuff. I learned stuff from you and from Tash, and different conversations that I've had. I have my own mentors, and I talk to them about legal advice or accounting advice or business advice or marketing.
Yep.
Right. So we have to have all these people. And to your point, you've heard my vision before, but I want to help 1 billion entrepreneurs avoid needless failure. And there's no way I can do it all myself. So we need more people in the industry. And where I'm going with some of my marketing videos that I'm going to get into here, not through this, but that I'm moving towards here on my coaching side, is talking to those that are at the end of their career, right? There's so many people that are starting to get out of business, and like, please don't just leave. Take what you want or take what you know and bring it back into the industry through coaching or through supporting or through mentorship or whatever, because the world needs us. Like the world needs these different ways of thinking and the different perspectives because we just keep losing it. We keep doing the same stupid things over and over and over again. And we lose that wisdom. And I think mentoring is such an important part of it. And even going back to perspective, I mean, this is why I got called into Tidal too, is I have a very different perspective on a lot of stuff. And I was brought into Tidal as a CEO because of a very different angle that I have looking at the world of business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And like the worst thing that could happen at this point in history where we have just such easy access to video, to audio, to being able to create courses, the worst thing that can happen is that we just have our experts in the world simply retire.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've never been able to capture information better, period, than we have today. We've never been able to organize information better, period, than we have today, utilizing tools like AI, right?
Yep.
My gosh, like companies listening right now, capture that information. Heck, if you got to pay them for a week for them to sit down and do that, because at the end of the day, that information has never been easier to capture, and it's worth hundreds of millions to these organizations to just simply record these people talking about the things that they know and the things that they've learned and the mistakes that they've overcome.
And that jumping around a little bit, but so Entrepreneur Roadmap, my company, is it's been working on content and mentoring tools and helping mentors for decades, right? I finally just finished a product called Sphere, right, which is a coaching tool, or a tool for coaches.
Yeah.
It was really designed ultimately for me to work with the entrepreneurs that I work with. And so it's got a bunch of resources. It's got a bunch of lessons and like an LMS, a learning management system built in, and all these things that I use. And then a way for me to communicate with my mentors and track my meetings, get personalities, have some assessments about who the entrepreneur is. Because when I ran an accelerator before, I would onboard an entrepreneur and I need to know more about them so that I can help them the best I can. So all of this is built into Sphere. And where you were just saying is really, really vital, because just because I have a bunch of really cool tools for entrepreneurs and a bunch of resources that I've discovered over the years, doesn't mean they're the best or the right ones or anything for anybody. But in general, me working with entrepreneurs, I have a bunch of stuff around that. And so if another coach can come in and they have a bunch of resources and a bunch of lessons and a bunch of tools and a bunch of things that they want to give out to entrepreneurs. I've just created the platform for them. And
Yeah.
all of that is built in from my stuff, but you can add lessons because it's an LMS. You can add your resources. You can add your videos. You can add your communications. It's all the stuff that you're already doing and just bringing it into one place so that you have a better way of managing it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've tried to do because we're all different, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are. And yet teaching people, I could put together, a system on my end that might be incredibly similar to what you're talking about with Sphere, because the reality is that we all find as coaches, we need a certain list of things to do our jobs effectively.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
No, that's amazing. I can't wait. We're gonna dive deeper into that
Yeah.
in a little bit here. But before we do, Colin, please, for our listeners who haven't listened to our first 3 episodes, and please, I don't care whether you're just finding us today at episode 348, go back, listen to all my episodes with Colin. They're all incredible. But
We're
please,
fun.
for our listeners who are finding us for the first time, maybe they just started listening. Maybe this is their first episode, Colin. Who is Colin Christensen today in 2026?
Oh, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. No, my little brief intro is, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10, right? I was out last week seeing my dad in Ontario and stuff like that. And we were talking about some of the houses that we lived in, but I was mowing lawns at 10 years old and borrowing the family tractor. We lived in a rural area, and I would mow like a graveyard and then a whole bunch of acreages that I would
Yeah.
go door to door with. So that was my first kind of businesses at 10. And then got into painting jackets through high school. And I've always had businesses. I've taken about 15 businesses to market over the years, but I've always had jobs in between because, I needed to support myself and do different things. But I love entrepreneurship. 2010s, I approached a huge benevolent corporation and said, we should teach entrepreneurship as a way of getting out of poverty or out of human trafficking. And I approached a huge benevolent corporation. We started doing that. And we started a crowdfunding, micro lending, crowdfunded microloan company or arm of the company. And that went to 10 countries, 4 languages, 300 some odd entrepreneurs around the world, helping
Wow.
them start and get out of poverty, which has been great, really, really encouraging. And then I've worked with 500 Global as an entrepreneur around the world, a mentor around the world, going to Middle East and Egypt and Riyadh and helping fast scaling, rapidly growing entrepreneurs raise capital and do that. And then just obviously being my own entrepreneur, continuing to run businesses and do stuff. And then just took on another full-time job, if that's what that is, as a CEO of a mushroom company, which you mentioned, and we can talk about that too. So
Yeah, wow. Well, and not to mention, I don't know how you do it, but you're at every single startup event in this damn city. So
I do.
I don't know how you
I'm a
I don't know
fan.
how you figure this whole thing out, man. I struggle to get out of my basement.
Well, I gotta say, Kelly, out of the people I know, you work a lot harder than I do, and with great results. I mean, sometimes I wonder what I'm doing because I'm way too enjoying the easier life, if you will, and I probably could work harder sometimes. So
Oh. Couldn't we all, right?
yeah,
Couldn't we all? That's the entrepreneurial spirit. Work harder always.
yeah, but always enjoy because, and
Yeah.
Kelly, you've got kids. I've got 3
Yes.
grown kids now, and my wife's my best friend, and we have 3 amazing adult kids now that are awesome, and I love spending time with them. And so fit in some work in there. Make sure you
Yeah.
make enough money to take care of the family, but make sure you enjoy the family for what it is too.
Yeah, my gosh. It's that's been a really big struggle for me and a lot of people that I've talked to on my journey so far is that, you do find yourself caught up in the progress, caught up in the progress, right? But it's at some point it's that's holy crap, all I'm doing is working.
Right.
Right? And absolutely, I do love it. I feel like if I didn't love what
Oh
I
yeah,
did, I couldn't work at this. I know for a fact I
yeah,
couldn't work at the pace I do. It's the simple fact that I really love the impact that I'm making in the world and I want to make an even greater impact that I keep doing this. But you're absolutely right. And it's so funny because, even though you were one of my very first interviews, and I remember that the balance came up in that too, that, at this point, let's call it 180, 190 plus interviews more. And that particular thing comes up over and over again, is that work-life balance as an entrepreneur has been so freaking challenging
Yeah.
for almost everybody.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and well, to get all philosophical, I mean, really, what's the point of life, right? I mean, I love what I do. You know that, and I know that you love what you do, which is good. Really, this is who I am. I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I even think about the introduction. Almost everything I said in there was about what I do,
Yeah.
rather than even who I am. Like, there's
Sure.
so much depth there, and I'm very philosophical about this, and I think about it a lot. But I love spending time with my family. I play hockey and GM a team, and that's busy. I'm a Christian guy, and I have some really wild and eclectic views about that, very different than what I think most of the world thinks of when I think of Christianity. But these are all things that make up who we are. And the work, ultimately, I do the work because I love doing it, the impact that we have. But I do it partly to make sure that we have enough money and can survive in this stupid capitalistic type style world where things
Totally.
cost money, right? But if I had my way, I'd be just enjoying time with the family and helping entrepreneurs and doing all the stuff that I do. I just wouldn't care about what revenue was made, right?
Sure.
So it's funny when you think about it and you peel back all the layers and what are we doing? Well, I want to have an impact. I want to make a difference in the world. To be, completely transparent, my dad died this morning, right? And I was just thinking about him as he's, kind of going out, what's going through his head? Like, what kind of things are important? And, did I make the world a better place? Did I make things, did I have great relationships? Did I make the world a better place? Right. And I think that's really what we're trying to do is it's not about me. It's not just about me enjoying my life and hedonistic kind of get what I want. It's like, I want to make a difference for other people because it sucks sometimes. And I need some friends and I need some people around me that help me. And I'm going to do everything I can to help them too.
Hey, rock stars, quick pause here. If you're anything like me, you've probably dreamed about owning your own business most of your life. The Revolution Hybrid Vacuum from Hypervac Technologies is a portable duct cleaning system that fits right in the back of your truck or van, giving you a real opportunity to launch your own duct cleaning business starting at under 7,000 Canadian dollars. Visit www.hypervac.com to learn more. Thanks, Hypervac. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, wow. I'm very sorry, Colin. I know you'd mentioned to me that you were down saying goodbye to your dad. I don't know, in my head I hadn't put two and two together that he was actually going.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Thank you, and please, I don't. It's not meant to be a downer. It is much better for him, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
just given what he was going through, but this is life. I mean, let's be blunt, right? Life comes and goes. You're about to have a new baby, and I say bye to my dad, and life is around there. So what are we doing with it? Are we
Mm-hmm.
going to? And this is actually going to fold right into Tidal. So
Yeah.
this is actually really interesting because there's a lot of benefits there, but I can't get rid of my humanity inside my work, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a human and I'm going to take my human with me, whether it's in life or death or family or friends or work or business or product or services, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you try to separate those things, that's where disaster happens, right? It's when we're not being authentic, when we're not acknowledging the human side of life, that we start to end up in some real big trouble.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, and then go back to what, episode 16 or 17, or
Yeah.
18, I should say, because
Yeah.
that goes into some big life and death stuff right there, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah. It's not your first rodeo with
Yeah,
being on the edge, that's for sure.
true enough.
Yeah. Take us into Tidal. Like, how that's a big jump from the last time, we talked. You're now the CEO of Tidal Care Inc.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting for the listeners as well, because we're in Canada. And, obviously in Canada, I believe it was 2017, we did legalize the cannabis industry. What we're talking about today with Tidal Care Inc., is it part of that, or is that
No.
is it psilocybin?
Yeah.
Is psilocybin separate from that legislation?
Very much so. And I'm not deeply let me give you a little bit of a history and see if I can converge the two. So
Okay.
from my history, I've known the director of the company for 25 years. He's a buddy of mine, and we've been friends, and we go for sushi regularly. He has had his own journey. I've had my own journey, but we've just been business buddies and friends throughout all of it. About 4 years ago, he came into the company, into Tidal, just after it started in 2021. And at the time, it was called Tidal Psychedelics, and they
Okay.
couldn't even get a bank account because
Yeah.
no bank would even look at them with that name. So they
Yeah.
changed their name to Tidal Care because it is about care, and we'll get to that. And then more recently, he asked if I wanted to take over CEO from his role. He had some other business that was taking off a little bit more, and he needed somebody in. And because of our relationship and what he knew, I knew, it was a good fit. And the timing was good too for me. So I said yes, and I kind of came into that. But let's talk a little bit about psychedelics. So we are a psychedelic company in the sense that we are doing mushroom research on psilocybin, specifically psilocybin, for the benefit of humans. Okay. This is not a new thing. Compared to cannabis, it's actually quite amusing because cannabis has got about this much research.
Yeah.
Psilocybin has like this much research. It's
Okay.
huge. There's a fantastic book that I would encourage everybody to read, whether you like it or not. Like, I'm not trying to get into the whole idea of, this is a restricted drug. This is a bad thing. Like, let's take that away for a second and just focus on what is psilocybin for a minute. There's a book by a guy named Michael Pollan, Pollan, and he wrote a book called How to Change Your Mind. And what's really great about it is he's a retired tech guy from Oracle, right? But he does a deep dive into the background of psychedelics in general. So going back for the last 80 years of coming through the late 50s into the early 60s and through LSD, acid as it might be called, Timothy Leary, and all the research and some of the changes that it was making in people's mind and why it was good and why it was bad and what was good about it and what was bad about it. A lot of research done out of Weyburn, Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
So that was really interesting. The university there got into psychedelic research using LSD fairly early on, and how it grew and what was going on. And really what it came down to is that psychedelics specifically, and the batch of them are LSD originally, but then into things like ketamine and MDMA, which was ecstasy, and that would do similar things, and psilocybin, which is the one there. So some of those are engineered. LSD is engineered, and ketamine is kind of engineered. MDMA is engineered, I suppose. But a lot of them in the psilocybin space, they start going into more natural substances. Like
Okay.
psilocybin is an active component of certain mushrooms. Okay. What these psychedelics do, and where they came up with all kinds of different names for them, but eventually psychedelics was where they hit, is because they get taken in by our cells in our brains in a very specific way. And I'm not a science guy, so I'm trying to make this as simple so I can understand it. But our cells attract these things, and it actually creates a connection to the spiritual, to another dimension, to change our mind and open up our connection with the universe, if you will. What it's doing psychologically and philosophically is it's allowing us to connect with something bigger than ourselves. And so in that, it's actually created some really, really interesting outcomes. And what I mean by that is, and again, I go back years of heavy metal and, drug dealing and drug use and all that kind of stuff in my own life. I've had a lot of these experiences. I used a lot of LSD in my earlier days, very illegally or whatever you could call it that. But I've seen the benefit that it's done for my brain.
Yeah.
It makes you more empathetic. It actually creates better connectivity with other people. For people that are going through, say, end of life stuff, we just talked about that. It's actually a really great way for people to be more at peace and more
Mm.
connected to, hey, you know what? Everything is actually kind of good. PTSD, it's been proven over and over again to greatly reduce PTSD suffering, depression. It's starting to change people who are struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia. And it starts to unlock these things in people that are going into these areas. And again, don't believe me, I'm not trying to make this stuff up, but there's a lot of research. Like Johns Hopkins has done so much research in this space about what psychedelics do to help people improve their mental health, right? And there's all kinds, and then there's a spectrum. So, sorry, I'm coming at this from a couple of different angles. I'll open it up for questions in a second here. There's a couple of things. First of all, the world of mushrooms. Let's talk just psilocybin because that will narrow it down a lot. But psychedelics are one part of mushrooms. Mushrooms are poisonous. There's food, culinary mushrooms we put on pizza.
Yeah.
And then there's a thing called functional mushrooms, which are things that are beneficial for the humans. Okay. Having a mushroom on a pizza, it's not going to be bad for you, but it's not like changing your biology in a necessarily massively positive way. But things like lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, turkey tail, oyster mushrooms, shiitake, maitake, dozens and dozens of these, what they call functional mushrooms that are doing beneficial good. People are using them as supplements. They're helping focus or energy or immunity or different things that are better for, what do you call it, circulation or inflammation. And mushrooms have been known for this for 5,000 years. It's not a new thing. It's just that a lot of people are just starting to discover it in North America a little bit more. So that's functional mushrooms. And then a part of those mushrooms are the psilocybin mushrooms.
Okay. So it's not all functional mushrooms are psilocybin. There's a piece of them that is.
Yeah. There's just a certain subsection of mushrooms that have psilocybin as the active ingredient.
I
So
see.
you can take all of these other functional mushrooms and you can buy them in any store. Well, maybe not any store, but there's lots of specialty stores that you can get. You can get them online. They're completely non-restricted. I like saying non-restricted instead of illegal because right now that's the case. Like cannabis was illegal, but really what it was is it was kind of allowed under certain circumstances. So it's more like it's restricted.
Okay.
Right? So here in Alberta, you can have psychedelic therapy using ketamine, MDMA, or psilocybin through a psychiatrist or a psychologist saying, yes, you are a good candidate for this. They fill in an application form. It goes to the government. The government will actually sell you psilocybin or MDMA or ketamine and allow you to have guided therapy with a clinician.
So what you're saying is the government is allowed to do legal drug dealing, nobody else.
Yeah. Well, I can too. So as Tidal Care, we have had a license where we can grow and sell psilocybin, but we can only sell it to certain people that are allowed to, or legally allowed to buy it and or use it. Right.
Okay. I see. So it's kind of like in the old days, if you had like a medical license to buy cannabis, you could. The same rules now apply to psilocybin.
Yeah. It's a slightly different genre, but yes, it's the same thing, right? It's a schedule. I think it's called Schedule 3, and I some people call it Schedule 1, but it doesn't fall into Schedule 1. Whatever. It's just, I say restricted, right? So there's only certain rules that you're allowed to do it. But this is changing, and I'm not sure that RFK is the best example of this. But do I want him as a spokesperson? Maybe not. But RFK has just started to open up the psilocybin market or the psychedelics market in the US.
Okay. That was going to be my next question. So like, where is the push for this, or like, where is this going? Like, where do you see, and I think we'll call it, should I call it functional? I'm also new to this.
Yeah.
I'm new here to the mushroom world.
Yeah.
Should we call it functional mushrooms or psychedelic? Like, is there a right word for what we're talking about?
Actually, I'll tell you what Tidal's doing. So one of the reasons I came into Tidal is because we've done a lot of research on psychedelics, like on psilocybin mushrooms. We've done some work over the years with functional mushrooms, and I want to separate those two things. Although they're both beneficial, we separate them out into restricted or psychedelics, and then functional being completely legal, completely allowable, and things you can get off any shop.
Like you take them, you can go to work.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get any mental changes. There's no psychoactive elements at all. Other than I can take a functional mushroom and I'll actually feel more alert. It's better for you than, say, coffee. So there's a brand in the US called Mudwater. Some people are fairly familiar with it, MUDWTR. And it's a brand, and it's just basically a bunch of functional mushrooms with some cacao and some chai, and into a blend that you scoop out, you put it into hot water and stir it and drink it. And it's
Okay.
coffee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll give you some mental clarity. It'll give you a little bit more energy, and you will feel it to a degree, right? And so that's cool. The reason I came into this is because with the fits and starts and a long journey along a psychedelic acceptance in Canada, I came in and I'm like, I'm not going to sit around and wait for this, twiddle my thumbs until something happens. I need to go to market with something and start creating
Yeah.
revenue.
Sure.
Because similar to cannabis, when people came into the market before cannabis became legal, there was all these companies that were selling on the black market. We're not doing that ever, right? And they were waiting, and so some were had IPO in our mushroom industry. There's a few companies that have gone IPO. They've gone public market,
Mm-hmm.
and they're raising capital and they're burning capital because there's no money to be made yet. Really,
Sure.
there's very, very small market in the psilocybin space. So they're burning capital like a lot of people, waiting for this thing to become legal. I came into the company and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm a business guy, and I believe that we have to do something to be real. And I'm not taking anything away from those other companies, but I don't want to just chase capital to hope for this thing to become legal someday. So
Sure.
what I'm doing is we're taking a functional mushroom, non-psilocybin, right? So completely legal, like a lion's mane, cordyceps, and reishi are the first three. And we're putting them into a little chocolate. So now you have, instead of going to a capsule you can buy online as a
Yeah.
supplement, we're going to put it in a chocolate, and we're making, let's call it indulgent wellness is kind of the
Okay.
brand that we're working with.
Love it.
So
I love chocolate.
great. So these chocolates are great, and we're partnering up with JSIC Chocolate out of Sherwood Park.
Cool.
Jacqueline and Tim are two of the greatest humans on the planet, and they are helping us make the chocolate. And we are taking functional mushrooms and putting them into the chocolate, and then we're selling like a bag on a subscription, right?
Okay.
So you can go and get chocolate from JSIC, and it's the best chocolate you'll have. You can go and buy mushrooms in a capsule, and that's totally fair, but it's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
And we're putting the two together and putting it to the market as a revenue generating product line that we can do that while we're waiting for psilocybin to come in.
Okay. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And absolutely, from like a business standpoint, you absolutely want to have something revenue generating. So you're not just waiting. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Let's take it back into, I want to know now. Let's take it back into psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Where is Canada at? And keep in mind, listeners from around the world, we are talking about Canada. That's where we're based. Me and Colin are both in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So we're kind of basing it on that. And when we talk about cannabis legalization, they legalized cannabis in Canada in, I want to say 2017. I could be wrong on that, but it was right around that time.
Yeah.
So obviously we've done that. Where are we at with regards to cannabis legalization today?
You still, there,
Or
it's
sorry, psilocybin legalization today.
okay,
That's what I
psilocybin.
meant.
Yeah, even with cannabis, cannabis is only allowed. It's like buying alcohol, right? You can only buy it in certain stores. You can only buy it at a certain age, and there's restrictions around.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So psilocybin right now is, like I said, legally allowed if you have a license. So it's under certain restrictions. It's restricted to the point that you can't have it unless you have a doctor's note, essentially.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Now, that being said, similar to cannabis, before legalization, if you want to call it that, it's about, best guess, somewhere between 175 and $300 million a year in black market in Canada.
Wow.
People, you can go online and you can buy psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms.
No way.
Oh yeah. And you can have it delivered to your house, right? And there's stores in Vancouver and in Ontario. You can go into stores, and every now and again they get shut down, right? But for the most part, and here's the thing, this isn't cocaine. This isn't meth. This isn't fentanyl, right? This is a product that you can't really overdose on,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So this is something. Now, don't get me wrong. If you take a lot of them, you're going to have a very ego separating experience. Right? What
I don't
you
know what
think,
that means, but it doesn't sound very fun.
well, it's actually a lot of fun if you're willing to give into it.
Okay.
The thing about it is people start to freak out a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
if all of a sudden you're like starting to see stuff and things are starting to kind of separate from reality, that's very disconcerting for people.
Sure.
And so this is why there's some, again, very legal and then not so legal therapy clinics that you can go to, and you can have a psychedelic journey with
Okay.
guides around you that will help you navigate this, because it is a little disconcerting to people. If you
Gotcha.
take, okay, I take, to be honest, I take microdose.
Okay.
I won't get high off of this, if you want to call it that. But one of the benefits of psychedelics, or specifically that brand of functional mushrooms, psilocybin-based mushrooms, we have a CMO, like we have a chief medical officer who's one of the top psychiatrists. So she is with us and understands the benefit on a different level than most of us ever will. And there's so much research and stuff around this that psilocybin is very, very beneficial. I could tell you some stories, but I won't necessarily yet. But microdose, it's a little 100 milligram dose of psychedelic mushrooms. It's illegal, but you can buy it, right? And if you have it, it just helps your neurogenesis. It actually creates better neural pathways, and reinvigorates your brain. So on a small scale, it's not going to do anything for me. I might feel, the first time I took it, I felt it was like a longer, cleaner coffee experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just be a little bit more alert. I had a little bit more energy, and it would just be a little longer, a little more focus, right? It was actually really good. After a few days, I didn't notice anything anymore. But I
Hmm.
just take it daily because it's a really good thing for my brain. So if now you can slowly increase that dose, and you're going to get more and more active elements going off in your brain. People will take 3 grams, and that's called a heroic dose, because you're going to get high. Like
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
to start, the world is going to become a little disjointed. And for some people, the people that have gone through that, unless you run into traffic or jump off a building or do something, just stupid and weird because you're freaking out a little bit, there's no real damage done. It's, in fact, most of the research has said this is really, really good for people's brains. But please do it under therapy, do a lot of your own research, do a lot of your own investigation, and that's why I suggest that book, How to Change Your Mind. It is
Hmm.
a phenomenal book on the research. And this guy has taken a number of different psychedelic journeys to experience it. And he kind of recounts what was going on. And some of them are, I don't want to say disturbing, but some of them can be a little bit like disjointing for
Sure.
people. But in the right circumstances, it really helps us to navigate our world better.
It is interesting, right? Because it's like, obviously there has been a lot of scientific research on this front, right? Like, Joe Rogan's been talking about this stuff for years.
Yeah.
That dude's been on a few trips, I think.
Guaranteed. A lot of, you'd be
Yeah.
surprised at how many people have, actually.
Yeah. Well, he talks about not psilocybin. What does he talk about? He talks about like some other thing.
Ketamine?
Not ketamine either. No. Something that you got to go to like Brazil for, or something along those lines.
DMT.
DMT. That's
Okay.
the thing he always talks about, where like he actually has to go to like another country.
You don't, though. So DMT is the kind of the very small, and again, please understand, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, I'm nothing. But DMT is actually some of the smaller active ingredients in a plant, and it comes in different plants. Like,
Okay.
I think, and again, I sound like an idiot here, but it might even be in some of the mushrooms as part of the psilocybin. But I think psilocybin is a bit of a distinct one. But DMT is actually the thing that is actually going on in all of these things, like peyote and ayahuasca and all of these different elements. DMT is kind of the main substance. You can
I
do it from
see.
licking a toad. You can Like, there's different elements of this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's honestly, some of that stuff sounds really, really scary. Like, I was like, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, and this is where it comes down to, so, okay, recreational versus like beneficial, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like you can do
How do you
both.
separate them though? Like how do you would you say that in the case of like verse beneficial, you mentioned like people who were maybe dealing with end of life, or maybe people who are dealing with dementia or cancer or some other like real scary life challenge, I guess one could say.
Yeah.
Is that what you're advocating for as opposed to recreational?
Yes. Now, the benefit is the same to a degree. Like, I mean, I have a friend who, just recently went out to the bush and took a whole massive dose of mushrooms and raged at the world and ran around naked and, had a very big, 6-hour experience, which is a little bit, 4 to 6 hours is kind of what you're going to end up with this kind of a thing. And so, and he came out of it and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I went insane for a little while, but he says, I really got out some of the things that I had rolling
Sure.
around in my head that I really needed to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that recreational or was that beneficial?
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough.
So it was recreational in the fact that he could go to a store and buy it and then go and have a heroic dose in the bush by himself, maybe get eaten by a bear, but
You do got to watch out for animals in Canada.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, maybe he fought one. I don't know. I mean,
There's a moose.
and if he
There's a
did, was
moose.
it in his head or was it real? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a moose out there with a hell of a story.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, but then you can, and I suggest this, like even for me, I mean, I said I've done a lot of these journeys in my life, and I haven't for a long, long time, like 30 years plus. But
Sure.
now I want to do it again. But I'm not the same. Like if I think about it and I want to go to the point where I become, let's call it egoless, like I really do want to help separate myself because the psychological benefits of doing this are very well accounted for. But
Hmm.
if I'm going to do that, I don't want to do it in my house around my family. I don't want to do it
Sure.
in the bush where, I get lost. I don't want to do it in a place like if you seriously are separating yourself from reality, I want my body to be in a safe place.
Yeah.
And so that's why there are really, really good. And I think Colorado just recently opened up the first legal therapy center that you can go to recreationally. Okay. It's like a yoga, think of a yoga, a class.
Yeah.
But instead, what you're doing is you're going in and you're sitting down and they give you almost more of a shaman style nurse that will sit there with you. They put you in a comfortable spot. They put on your favorite music and you put on some eye shades and you take this dose and you go to Mars, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just that now you're in a safe place. If you start getting freaked out or not sure what to do about the weird creature standing in front of you, they can walk you through it a little bit more. They prep you in advance. They hold your hand going through it. They walk you to the bathroom or whatever. So you make sure you don't lose your footing. And they give you this experience so that when you come out and then people recounting it afterwards and talking about it, it's like, I just feel so much love. I feel so much better. It sounds all hokey, but man, the research on this is story after story, thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of stories, right?
It, okay. So hear me out on this.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're saying is this isn't something that you do, let's call it weekly or biweekly
Right.
or even monthly.
Yeah.
It sounds like an experience like that. You could have one experience ever and it
Could.
changed the entire forward trajectory of your life.
Yes. They used it a lot in one of the things they were using it in back in LSD. Again, I'm grouping them together, but we're specifically a psilocybin company, but LSD and ketamine and MDMA and psilocybin and a couple of other DMTs, those all fit into this, psychedelic kind of space, right? They use these things, these psychedelic spaces they have an 80% success rate at people quitting smoking.
Wow.
They used it back in the 60s to help people get off of alcohol addiction. And what's happening is, because if you think about alcohol and or even drug use in general, or cigarettes or things like that, they're addictive because it's a bit of a coping mechanism. Does that help maybe? And again, I'm
Sure.
being way too generalistic for doing this any major benefit. But the thing about the psychedelics is all of a sudden you have this greater life experience and this understanding of the world in a better way, that all of a sudden you just, like, a lot of people coming out of the smoking going, yeah, I just didn't like it. I did it because it was there. But now I think I have this bigger picture of things, and Colin doesn't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just leave it. They're not
Yeah.
even withdrawals or anything. They just leave it. And so now what happens though, what I'm noticing, and again, these are my just noticings, but people have this journey, and then over a period of time, you could do it once and be fine with it. But then people often, it starts to fade away a little bit. It's like any great experience in your life, right?
Sure.
And
Eventually it's a memory.
yeah, quarterly, semi-annually, you
Yeah.
do it again and it boosts you up. But there's no rules on this. Some people will
Yeah.
do it 3 times for therapy, and they'll go one, and then they'll do it a couple of weeks later, then they'll do it a couple of weeks later. And that is changing people's view with things like PTSD. It's just going away. Now, it's not going to happen for everybody, but there's so many cases where PTSD is this massive thing, and all of a sudden they're taking some psychedelic journeys, and all of a sudden it's like, I just don't struggle with that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your goal long term with Tidal Care to be able to facilitate some of these guided experiences?
I would say not. I would say we'd be more on the supply side. Right now, we're doing a couple of things that are really cool. Let's again just leave psychedelics to a side for a second and focus on functional mushrooms. The idea of mushrooms are really interesting because of there's so many things that the indigenous cultures and Asian cultures have known about this stuff forever, through Mexico and a Mayan and Incan background, and the shamans, and all the way through indigenous cultures through North America and Asia, all of the areas of India and China. They know about mushrooms and the functional benefits that they bring, right? We're starting to open up to it because we've popped pills for so long. We've been told medically this is what you need to do, and
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be almost 60 and have no prescriptions right now. But when I'm looking for benefit now I'm looking for more of a holistic plant-based thing, and mushrooms are a great way to look at that. Outside of psilocybin, there's lots and lots of spectrum of mushrooms that you can do research on. And we have a guy named Robert Rogers. He's phenomenal. So would you say Joe Rogan has met with a guy named Paul Stamets. So Paul
Okay.
Stamets is the mushroom guy. And next to Paul Stamets and Robert Rogers, who happens to be here in Camrose, they're both some of the top guys in the world when it comes to mushrooms. He's on our team, and he's one of our guys. But when you talk to these folks, they would often say, the people in the know would say, listen, if you're going to take like a supplement of mushrooms, you want to get at least a gram of one particular mushroom into you a day. A
Okay.
gram. Okay. So now a gram of psilocybin mushrooms is going to kind of do something to you, but a gram of lion's mane is just going to help you be alert, and you'll probably notice some stuff, but you're going to be really focused on doing work for a couple of hours. Right.
Gotcha.
But it's not going to make you have psychedelic experiences and go, whoa, like there's not going to be any of that. It's just going to, it's going to zone in.
Is that what you would recommend for the busy entrepreneur listening? Is lion's mane?
Yeah, lion's mane's a great one. Again, do your research and look into it. But lion's mane, cordyceps is known for energy, and the team that we're working with has one that goes so far to call it cordyfuel.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
I had some the other day, and I just put it in, mixed it in with my coffee, and it gets a little gritty if you're just having the powder, right? This is why
Sure.
we're doing it in chocolate, and we made it perfectly smooth. I'll get to that later. But it can be a little gritty because you're taking a mushroom, drying it out, and then grinding and milling it until it's like a powder. But you're not going to get much more when you eat it. It's still like it's a grit. There's a grit to it. But I poured some in my coffee and mixed it up and drank it, and all of a sudden I'm
Yeah.
like, woo! I felt a little like I got some energy. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you will feel some of these things, right, from these things, but you've got to get about a gram,
Okay.
or you're not going to notice anything.
Okay. Well, no, that's really, really interesting. Well, lead us into, the chocolate portion of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're trying to make it more palatable to people because people don't like taking pills and they probably don't typically like mixing powders into their tea.
Yeah.
So you guys chose chocolate, and it sounds like you have a great chocolate partner right out of Sherwood Park, you said.
Yeah.
Why chocolate? Was it just to make it something easier for people to take?
Yes and no. So, okay. So looking mushrooms, again, coming at it from a business perspective, I walked into this company. We're looking at psilocybin, the journey towards that, and going, okay, well, what do we do in the meantime? We could keep doing research, but how do we actually make some money? And so I started thinking of a product. And right now, being a Canadian, tariffs are a thing all over the place,
Yeah.
and most of the mushroom type things come from the U.S. Right? I
Okay.
can get raw mushrooms up here, and there's some amazing Canadian growers, really Canadian growers. But most of the mushrooms, even the ones through companies like Mudwater, come from China, right? So that's where a lot of the mushrooms come from. 85% of the mushrooms in North America are from China.
Wow.
And you can pay extra money, but I'm not saying I don't want to trust anybody, but there is issues if I'm not having it grown in my backyard, and we
Sure.
have to have good COAs, a certificate of analysis on everything, and you often will get that from. But as a Canadian, I'm like, what can I do that's Canadian? Let's go. I don't want to buy Mudwater, because if I buy Mudwater, and I'm not trying to pick on Mudwater, but Mudwater is a brilliantly cool product. It's a little tin, and you get about a month's supply, and it's like $50. But by the time you get shipping and exchange, it's 75 for a Canadian
Yeah.
for a month of coffee.
Yeah.
And it's Chinese mushrooms or imported mushrooms, not always Canadian, or sorry, not always American mushrooms, right? So I'm looking around, and when I first came into this, I was starting to do some research. I'm like, okay, let's get into mushrooms, but what can we do that's functional? So I started looking at a Canadian version of Mudwater. But one of the chief complaints against Mudwater is that it's gritty, right? You get sediment in the bottom, and you kind of, it's kind of gross, right? So people drink it because it's cool and it's good and it's beneficial, but there's still some complaints about it, and it still
Sure.
tastes like mushrooms a little bit. So I'm like, okay, well, I think I could do better. I could put it in a tea bag, and then we can have it like a tea. You've got some mushrooms, and it'll hold the grit so you don't get the grit. And I could put some cacao in it, right, for some chocolate flavor and some benefits of cacao. And I could put some chai in it for flavor, like some tea. And so these are things I could do. So I started looking around, and I went to my friend Jacqueline Jasek, and I sat down and I said, hey, I need some cacao. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I need some, I need cacao because I want to put it in like a mushroom chocolate. And she's like, okay, why aren't you doing chocolate? And I'm like, what do you mean? She says, Jasek is about joy, right? We are a chocolate company that provides joy, and they have beautiful chocolates, like airbrushed, and like, oh my goodness, they're so good. I can't say enough about how amazing Jasek is. Anyways, so we started talking, and she has a lot of requests. People are starting to look for mushrooms. They're like, we want mushrooms in chocolate. And she's like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I just happened to show up in the right place at the right time. We talked about it.
Gotcha.
We figured out a way. And then now the trick was, okay, how do we get a gram of mushrooms into a chocolate? Because you
Hmm.
can buy mushrooms in chocolate from a couple of Canadian brands, a couple of US brands, a couple of overseas brands. Coming in from the States, they're very expensive for exchange and things like that. But here's the other thing. Almost everybody is putting, maybe, let's just call it 2% mushrooms to chocolate ratio.
Sure. Yeah. So like you would need a block of chocolate to have your gram of mushrooms.
We're doing 20%. So we're getting a 5-gram chocolate with a whole gram of mushrooms in it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's 20%. That's unseen in the whole marketplace. So we're getting a daily dose. And if you have 2 or 3 a day, you might have too many, just and you'll feel it a little bit more in your stomach from eating so much mushrooms.
Sure.
But it's not going to hurt you, right? There's no downside to it. It's just, you have 2 or 3 lion's manes ones, you're going to feel the focus. You'll probably feel it from 1 gram, right? One button.
Okay. Okay. Well, for the people listening, how do they get their hands on this chocolate, Colin?
Well, you're going to have to wait. Okay, so literally, like we're so early. Now, there's a couple of cool things that are going on. In September, we're rolling out packages to 250 stores across Canada.
Okay.
Okay, so that's really, really cool. Like we're starting a D2C company and we already have 250 stores that we're going into as a product line. So that's really cool. You'll be able to find news about that through JASIC. I would encourage you to watch for a brand called Macau. That's going to be our brand. You're not going to
Okay.
see it much on Tidal. We're separating Tidal a little bit from Macau, MYCAO. So CAO from cacao, right?
Yeah.
And my MYC from like mycelium, right? So
Yeah.
you've got Macau. That's the brand name. And we're going to have a website and a landing page, hopefully within the next week.
Okay. By the time this comes out, you're probably shipping chocolate around the world. So
Maybe.
I'll make sure, for the people listening, I will make sure that if this is completely available, if it is being sold, that we have it everywhere. There will be links. You'll be able to find it and you'll be able to ship it, I imagine, worldwide for the functional, correct?
Yeah, we'll probably ship to Japan first because we have good trade relations there, and you'll be able to get it online and have it shipped, and we'll see how the shipping goes. I don't know what to do. We're doing a D2C brand, like we'll have a website and you'll be able to
Sure.
order it online and all that kind of stuff. So that's coming up. October, we'll start shipping. So we're building between now and then, we're building a waiting list.
Okay.
So I can just say bang and start launching all the packages out for shipment in October.
Cool. Okay. So definitely across Canada, probably across North America, and then we'll see about the remainder of the world. But if you are listening to this, you'll be able to find it. Like I said, I'll have the links up as soon as we have them.
Yeah.
So awesome. Super cool, Colin. I can't wait to see kind of what happens. It's neat that this is right in our backyard. I would have never thought that we would be doing something like this right from Edmonton.
Yeah, well, again, we've got some brilliant Canadian growers. They're just absolute nerds when it comes to the potent elements of the mushrooms. So all fully Canadian there. Obviously, we don't grow chocolate here, so we have to import the chocolate. But it's manufactured here, packaged here, Canadian companies, delivered from Canada, all Canadian as much as we possibly can.
Cool. Oh man, yeah. If we can grow chocolate, I feel like I want to buy myself a milk chocolate tree. They making those yet, Colin?
No, you can't get cacao here. And right now, cacao is gold. So
Really,
it is expensive. So
oh goodness, yeah. I'm sure most of us, if we could, would have milk chocolate trees.
I would never have a milk chocolate treat. I hate milk chocolate.
No,
I
you
just
just
dark chocolate.
you take your dark chocolate tree all day. Well, this has been cool. And this, like, by all means, this is very cool. This is groundbreaking. It's, like I said, nothing like we've ever had on the show. We've never talked cannabis on this show, aside from Megan Ralston, who was doing marketing for it back in the day. But this is our very first dive into anything, psilocybin or mushrooms. So really cool show on that, Colin. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
However, this isn't the only thing that you're doing. And this kind of got me interested when we started talking. Obviously, you're a member of the Catalyst Club. We've been friends for, since the beginning of the show, really. And you were saying, Kelly, not only am I doing this, but now I'm working on a program to help coach coaches because
Right.
you're seeing challenges. Well, we're all seeing challenges. Everybody at this point is becoming a coach, it kind of seems like, and probably a lot of people who don't necessarily know what they're doing. So please take me into the coaching that you're doing. It's through Entrepreneur Roadmap, through that company. But run me through it. Essentially, you're coaching coaches. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful there. There is no shortage of programs and courses and, people selling coaching stuff online. And it just drives me friggin' nuts, to be honest. I don't want to be that guy, right? I just happen to have, like I said, mentored 2,000 some odd entrepreneurs, helped start 350 companies around the world, raised $100 million. I love this stuff. And you look at somebody like Tash, who is one of my heroes and an amazing girl, obviously been on your program before, part of the Catalyst Club.
Yes.
Tash and I are friends, and she is an incredible coach, an incredible mentor, and really knows what she's talking about. And I think I am too, but I'm not trying to compete with her, right? I'm trying to say, you know what? There are some things that I've learned about coaching that I think I can help with. You're going to be a mentor. You're going to be a coach, and you ought to, right? But how can I make your life better? So it's not so
Mm.
much about that I'm coming in as a coach of coaches per se.
Sure. Like you're
I,
not trying to be the expert in the room for whatever their expertise
totally.
is. But what you're saying is there's a framework here that if you follow it, it's going to
A
make
little
you a
bit.
better coach.
Yes, a little bit. I think what I've done is, okay, so if I understand my life as a coach, well, let's go. I'm not going to pick on this, and I'm actually illustrating it as a point. So let's use EOS as an example. So if you're familiar with EOS, right?
Yep.
EOS is Entrepreneur Operating System, Traction, Gino Wickman, beautiful session, but not unlike Scaling Up and the Gazelles, or the Table Group with Patrick Lencioni, or Scale by, what's the name? Jeff Hoffman, I think it is. So there's these numbers of these different, or even Entre Leadership with Dave Ramsey. These are all coaching programs, right? Or Right Management, or Focus Mentoring. Like these all are programs that are for coaches, right? And they all have some of these tools. They have ways of helping the entrepreneur have a new model, a new methodology, a new way of running their business in a way that makes sense, right? So some of my stuff overlaps with that and is similar to that. I've just made it a lot simpler because I've worked with startups and I've worked with early stage companies rather than the more scaled companies, which is where a lot of coaches typically work, right?
Gotcha.
So mine is more, but if you think about that, then I'm an EOS guy. Let's say I'm an EOS guy and I'm going to charge my company's $40,000 to $60,000 a year for my time with them, right?
Yes.
I have a whole bunch of people coming into the funnel that I want to work with if I'm active at doing business development, which a lot of coaches aren't very good at. But let's say, so I have a funnel and I have no real clear understanding of when they convert into being a full-time customer of mine. That makes sense?
Yes.
So I make zero, 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 $60,000 a year. Right? And I don't have any way other than picking up the phone saying, "Hey, you ready to be my client yet?" I don't have any way of doing that yet. So I just check in with them every now and again. What
Yeah.
Sphere, the product that I'm working on, does is it actually gives a very hands-off yet high engagement way for the coach to be able to work with their entrepreneurs.
Okay.
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 So what they can do is if they sign up for Sphere, now they can they can invite all their prospects to come in and have a self-guided entrepreneur lessons, a bunch of resources. They can make up their own, they can add their own resources. They can make up their own little micro courses, whatever they want to do, in a way of
Yeah.
communicating, understanding their mentees and all that kind of stuff. And even make some money. You can charge them zero. You can charge them $5 a month, $50 a month, $500 a month. Zero, one time of 100, one time of 1,000. I don't care. I've tried
Yeah.
to set it up in a way that allows them to monetize their funnel and have a higher engagement until they become your full-time customer.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it's kind of like giving them a trial,
Yeah,
letting them kind of see who you are and what they can expect from you ahead of working with you, which
right.
for most coaches is a big challenge because unless you have a platform or some way that you can share that knowledge out there, it's a pretty big gamble to just hire a coach that you don't have any experience
That's
with.
right. Yeah, and that's perfect. It's a way of improving the engagement between the entrepreneur, because really my world is entrepreneurship. And
Yep.
so the lessons and the classes and the resources are all kind of centered around entrepreneurship. So anybody who is a coach that deals with entrepreneurs, I've tried to create a way of monetizing and having a whole bunch of tools that you can use to help them engage with you until they become your big ticket client.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. And you're right. It actually is a missing piece on a lot of these platforms like Kajabi, like Circle. They kind of, I don't want to say force you because I use Kajabi. They don't force me to do anything,
Yeah,
but they do force your student in a way to have to choose to, yes, I'm going to proceed forward down this pay path,
that's right.
regardless of what that is. Whereas you're saying, no, there's a way to do this that doesn't monopolize the coach's time, however, still allows that customer to have some experience with the coach
Yes.
if they don't have a platform or some other way of doing that,
Yeah.
which many don't.
I think one of the things that's nice is if I think about, okay, so maybe you do too. but I get invited for a coffee fairly regularly from an entrepreneur wanting to get some business advice, right? And always happy to have a coffee, always happy to go and meet somebody new and hear cool ideas. I get to hear them all the time, right? And so I meet with them. I ask them some questions to get to know them. They explain some of the big immediate challenges that they have. And I'm going to give them some advice or some homework that they can work on. Well, it could be a
Sure.
resource, it could be a book to read, it could be some courses that I have. But right now, if I don't have anything like that, I'm literally sending them to YouTube or going and reading a book or going and introducing them to somebody else. And I'm not doing anything with it. I got a coffee out of it and they got some of that advice and maybe the beginning of a relationship, but they say, I really want to do this more with you. What do you got? And I'm like, I have a $5,000 a month course, or whatever. And they're like,
Yeah.
I can't do that. But if I could say to them, well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you an invite. You're going to sign on. You can have access to all the stuff that I have. You just go through and work it on your own. And what's fair for you?
Let's
25
call it.
bucks,
Sure.
25. Yeah, $25 a
Yeah.
month. Okay, let's do that. And what I'll do at $25 a month, I will review your stuff and send you notes asynchronously, right? You're going to do a little bit of homework. I get notification that that homework is done. I'm going to send you a note saying, that's great, but what about this? And you're going to do it. And it takes me 5 minutes to respond. Doesn't cost me anything, but I'm making $25 a month or $50 a
Mhm.
month or whatever. Or you can start to engage more and say, listen, let's get together on a regular basis. I'm going to charge you $500 a month and you're going to still do your self-help, self-work stuff. And I'll just engage more and then meet with you a little bit more. So you can set up all these different elements, but they're not quite ready, but it's always moving them towards where they're ready to start engaging you on that bigger ticket item.
Yes, yes. It's progressive, basically. It's like, let's start and you can test the waters. You can see how this works. And then, once you see that I actually know what I'm doing, that we're going to change your business forever, we can tack on the extra.
Right. Well, the other side of that too, and I appreciate you saying that because I work with lots of entrepreneurs. I give them homework and I never hear from them again.
Yeah,
Right. So if that person engages and never does anything, I'm kind of happy to not work with them.
sure.
Right.
Sure.
So this is a way of testing their
You
commitment
can
out.
see who's actually going to do the work.
Yep.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Is this an active program that you are running
Yes.
today? Like, could somebody, obviously, we're talking in the future right now, because that's when
Yep.
the show will come out. But assuming the launch of this show, is this going to be very much available
It's
to
available now.
coaches?
Yep.
Amazing. Okay. And is there a type of coach that you focus on, or is this life coaching, business coaching, or could this be for anybody?
Two sides. I mean, again, as an entrepreneur, as a mentor myself, I work with entrepreneurs. So if an entrepreneur wants to go there and they're interested in checking it out, they can do that. But if they're a coach, which is really my target market, let's call it, then they can go there too. And so it literally has two sides, right? But yoursphere.ca, right? So
Yoursphere.ca. Okay.
yoursphere.ca. And that's kind of a landing page. And it just kind of says, because once they become a coach, I actually have a training session. I can do more with them. And I'm like the coach's coach. They can call me and they can say, hey, I got this guy I'm working with or this girl
Yeah.
I'm working with. I don't know what to do with them. I'd be happy to help there. But
Okay.
yoursphere.ca gets you there. And then it'll take you to a registration page that will also pop up and you can sign on. And then we have a conversation before that kind of makes sense. I want to make sure it fits. But to answer your question about who, typically, I say business coaches, but it could be a breathing or a yoga coach if they work with entrepreneurs and they want
Okay.
to offset their thing. But the material, the content, the tools, everything is kind of centered around entrepreneurship. So you probably want a coach of somebody who deals with entrepreneurs.
Okay, perfect. And it aligns well with our audience because I'm always telling them to, if you're an expert in something, it's time to start teaching it. Like, that's the world we live in, right? And so I'm always trying to push them a little bit towards entrepreneurship and coaching and things like that. What if it's somebody new? Like, what if it's somebody who spent an entire life in industry and they're like, you know what? I think I could teach this.
Bring
Does
it
this-
on. That's my favorite.
Okay. So it's a really good fit for new coaches as well.
Yes. Ideally, like if somebody is trained in EOS, they probably have a need still. Like I said, they're an EOS client or they have an EOS implementer. They have all this stuff, but they don't have anything to help their funnel until that happens, right? So I can help with that. But my favorite is somebody coming out of industry, and I've got a few of them already that I work with. They're retiring and they want to hang up a shingle on LinkedIn. And I'm not the guy to help them build their business, but I am a way that I can give them a whole bunch of tools to get them up and running without having to do a whole lot of work. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to do that. I can coach them. I can help them. I can give them some guidance on how to ask questions. The way that we do our assessments with the entrepreneur, they're going to learn a lot about them, and they're going to naturally be leaders because they're probably from industry, from leadership, and they can look at these people and go, okay, now I can help them. I understand their disc profile. I understand the way that they look at the world, and I understand what skills they have. I can really coach them now. And so I'm just giving them a lot more tangible and tactical elements.
Well, I feel like from now on, Colin, I'm just going to call you the coach's coach. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, like I said, from the very beginning, I know I've kind of called you out a little bit in the Catalyst Club as well, but I truly believe that I wouldn't be where I'm at today had you not taken, a gamble on me at episode 16, episode 18. Thank you for that. And thank you for all the help along the way and the people you've introduced me to and just the support. I appreciate you immensely, my friend.
Kelly, I am honestly honored and excited, and so excited to see the journey that you've had. I think it was funny because I think the first time we met, you were either on episode 1 or 2. But
it was very early, very early. I'm not sure that I'd even interviewed anyone yet.
Yeah, it's possible. What's so funny about this is it just is a testimony of how fast you move. I didn't get in until episode 16. Like, I mean, it's not like I was your first guy. You're all like 16. And then it was a 2-part episode and I didn't even get to do 17. It was so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We've actually done 2 episodes a week, all new episodes since we started. We've never repeated a show.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's been
you're good at what you do. You're curious. You're a great interviewer. You have a lot of fun. You're knowledgeable. It's a lot of fun to work with you, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
It's funny, like at this point, like I said, we've got to be in the neighborhood of 200 episodes, or 200 interviews by the time this show comes out. Really darn close, at least. And I feel like I know less about entrepreneurship now than when I started. Like the further you go down this path, the more you realize, holy cow, there's just so much more to know.
It's true. But it's a lot of fun. It's complex and it's wrought with all kinds of problems. And I just try to minimize those. Like I said, help 1 billion entrepreneurs avoid needless failure. You can't avoid all failure, but you can avoid a lot of needless ones. So
yes. Colin, you're busy on LinkedIn. Is that the best place for people to connect with you as well?
Probably the best. Yep, LinkedIn.
Amazing. Okay. We're going to talk about Sphere. I'm going to share everything to get people tied into Tidal Care. So if we have links, we will, by the time this comes out, you'll see them in the show notes. You'll see them on all the LinkedIn pages. And please give Colin Christensen a follow on LinkedIn. Colin, once again, been a pleasure, my friend.
Always great, Kelly. Thanks again.
Until next time, you've been listening to the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey, it's Kelly again. I hope you found value in today's episode. If you'd like help applying these ideas to your own business, check out the Capital Catalyst Breakthrough Audit. We'll take a deep look at your business development system and identify your biggest opportunities for growth. Book your breakthrough now at www.kellykennedy.official.com. We'll see you next time.